think I hear somewhat of a clunking or thumping noise, and driving this truck, the whole front end just kind of seems a little loose. So let's do some investigating. Let's bring it into the studio. Well, now that we're inside, the truck is up on the lift, the issue kind of stands out to me. But before you look at anything in the front end, I always recommend doing just a general check. So once you have it safely raised and supported, just give it a quick shake on the wheel, up and down, left and right. That checks for ball joint play, checks for tie rod play. You want to rule all that out, even if you think you spotted the issue, because you don't want to be chasing yourself in circles later because of something that you didn't check. So come in closer. Let me show you what the issue is. With the wheel off, we can see much clearer what's happening here, and my suspicions were correct. So this bushing in particular right here, you can see is absolutely destroyed. It is torn up. It is very old, dry rotted, cracked, and it's squishing out of the control arm. Now, just because one is like this doesn't mean the other ones are good, because most likely they're following. So it's always a good idea to inspect all of your other bushings. And of course, if we look on the other end of this control arm, we see the same story. And it's always a good idea to check the lowers as well, because they function together. So let's take a look at those. Underneath the vehicle, like I said, it's very important to check the lower control arms. And what's a good way to check them other than visual inspection? Well, a long pry bar. So whatever setup you have, whether it's a body-on-frame vehicle or maybe it's a unibody with a subframe, wherever that control arm mounts, stick that pry bar in between the mounting spot and the bushing and just pry it. Pry it in different directions, maybe in and out, left and right, back and forth. Like this, you can see that there's some movement here. Now, these bushings in particular aren't horrible, but they're also not great. So when you do something like this, especially when you have bushings on top that are so bad, you definitely want to consider replacing all of them. And kits from 1A Auto actually do make that quite easy, because you can get all of the bushings, or even better yet, all of the control arms that you need, all in one click. That way, you can refresh the whole front end at once and, well, do the job without having to come back again and again and again for more parts if you were to do this one at a time. So I have two control arms here, an upper and a lower, and I have two more actually. They're just not right here on the table. Another upper and lower for the other side of the truck, because I always recommend replacing these in pairs when you replace them, so that you can refresh both sides and have it ride evenly. Now, you might be asking, why control arm assemblies and not just bushings, since that is technically what failed here. When you have an old vehicle like this that you're dealing with old rusty components, maybe old original ball joints, it just doesn't make sense to try to put a brand new part, that being our bushing here in this case, into an old, crusty, rusty looking control arm that maybe it's too far gone and you don't know yet until you start taking it apart. Maybe it can't accept the new bushing. Maybe it doesn't press in correctly. Maybe it's going too far or not enough. Maybe it went in at an angle. So now you're dealing with having to press these in just right. Needless to say, you need a ball joint press for this, or at least a bushing press. So now you're talking specialty tools in the driveway, on the ground, which I've done plenty of these control arms on the ground in the driveway. Trust me, it is not fun to begin with. But now you're adding all of this on top of it. Well, all we have left to do now is take it apart, put the new parts in, and refresh this front end, get this truck safely back on the road again. Let's get into it. Well, here's control arm number one. Clearly horrible, horrible shape. Long overdue. Good, let's keep going. When tightening bushings like these on pretty much every control arm, it's important to have it at right height. Because if you don't, as you notice, the bushing actually stays with the control arm. So if you have it all the way down or even all the way up, just because it's easier to reach doesn't mean it's better for the control arm or the bushing itself, because then when you put the vehicle on the ground and it starts driving, it's going to want to twist that rubber continuously at the wrong angle. That will destroy your new bushing really quick. So make sure you tighten it down at right height. You can do that by just propping it up with something, use a bungee cord, hang it, have someone hold it if you have a helper nearby. Whatever you have to do to keep it at right height, do that. We got the upper control arm installed, torqued down, everything's good to go. So I'm going to tie my axle up and out of the way so we can do the lower control arm. Like I said, we're doing upper and lowers on both sides. let's keep going. Well, we got the control arm out. It was a little bit of a hassle, but that's because we had torsion bars and, well, if you've dealt with them, you know. This bushing here, in our case, is pressed onto the frame, not on the control arm. This is somewhat rare. Usually both are on the control arm, both as in front and rear bushing. But just because it's on the frame doesn't mean I'm not replacing it. I mean, if you look at it, it's really cracked and very dry rotted. It's not going to be great to put a new control arm with a new front bushing on this old torn up bushing and then send it on down the road like this isn't going to fail soon. And I know it's starting to fail, but when I say fail, I mean completely fail to where it has play, kind of like that upper one that we saw earlier. So definitely going to replace that. Now that we got these control arms bolted onto the frame, let's put everything back together. Of course, the other side as well. And then let's go listen to the difference in how quiet this is going to be. Well, that sure feels a lot better. No more noise. Front end is nice and tight now. All we have left to do is get in alignment.